Welcome back to episode 6.
So last episode we did so actually fun fact, we recorded episode 5 and then we decided not to release it. So last episode with the Pokemon was supposed to be episode 7. So that's why we said welcome to episode 5 with this little thing I got from the internet. So now welcome to episode 6. So,
I still really want to edit, put a shitty internet thing over the top of
of
that.
that as well.
It'll be really funny. But yes, welcome to episode 6. We are recording in Siobhan's house today because I'm in the middle of moving.
Yes.
So that, which is, I actually really like this
I like his
compared.
setup.
I like that we're on the couch.
Yeah.
I like, we have a Half Alive tapestry going on behind us. Which is a band that I really like, but is not the band that I'm going to ramble on about today. Because this week we are looking at the 4 EPs by the Oh Hellos.
Yes, we're doing music instead of
music,
film,
namely Notos, Eurus, Boreas, and Zephyrus.
which are 4 EPs.
Yes.
That she just said that, but by the Oh Hellos, which they were a Christian music band, but
Yes.
not like Hillsong, but
not overtly Christian. They're a
yeah.
folk music group formed by 2 siblings, Maggie and Tyler Heath, who are from Texas, and a lot of their music is very religious in theme, Christian, like has a lot of Christian themes, but is a lot more poetic, and like the fact that it's folk music and not
It's not worship
it's not
music.
worship music.
No.
Kind of makes it distinct in its own little kind of world of things.
Which I think Half Alive have a similar vibe. Not vibe, but in terms of the fact that they have religious themes but are not
yes,
the
but
worship music.
yes, same kind of vibe actually. It's a good segue. Like Half Alive and Oh Hellos do have a lot in common in that, like that their genre is kind of secular in sound, but a lot of their lyrics are religious in connotation. But we're looking at the 4 EPs by the Oh Hellos that are named after the 4 Greek gods of wind, and I have those gods written down here. And this is in order of release.
Okay, nice.
So the first EP is Notos, which is named after the god of the south and the summer. Then Eurus, the god of the east and autumn. Boreas, the god of the north and winter. And Zephyrus, the god of the west and spring. But so yeah, these 4 EPs were released in they're more recent of their music. I'm going to get up their discography so I can actually give you some proper numbers on that.
Yes.
But the Oh Hellos started out, their first release was called the Oh Hellos EP. And that's like 4 songs, probably low production. Like you can hear the difference when you listen to some of their more recent stuff.
Yeah. Did you already mention that they were siblings from Texas?
Yes, I think I did.
Okay, nice.
It's okay though. So they're siblings from Texas.
Yeah.
I've got my Spotify up. See discography. Oh, I love this app. So yeah, their first EP was released in 2011. It was just called the Oh Hellos EP, and then they came out with a Christmas album, and then their infamous album, which is 10 years old this year, which I'm going to the tour of, which I'm very excited about. Dear Wormwood, which is very heavily religious in theme because it's based on C.S. Lewis's The Screwtape Letters.
Yeah.
So very heavy religious themes there.
And their most famous song, which is Soldier Poet King, which is the one where it's like, there will come a soldier
that carries a mighty sword. Yes.
So that song comes from that album, which you told me before.
Yeah, and we both have a pet peeve about this song.
Yes, because it gets played in secular contexts, like in cafes and Ren fairs and stuff. And it has the right vibe sonically, but it's just overtly about Jesus.
Jesus Christ.
Like it is about God.
Easily.
Yeah.
So like I
guess it's not overt. Like
no,
they don't say it.
I'm sorry. Okay, so there's 3 different verses to it, and that's just and then there's the little ole ole law in between. And the first 2 verses, I get how you could not get that's about Jesus, but the last one is there will come a ruler whose brow is laid in thorn, smeared with oil like David's boy. That whose brow is laid in thorn.
Yeah, he literally had the crown of thorns when he was crucified. Like
it's very overtly about Jesus, in my opinion. I don't get.
I mean, if you completely don't know, like if you've never heard of the Bible and Jesus, well,
that's the thing.
But
it's like
I know people have heard of it, but like a lot of people aren't familiar.
It's played in a lot of like Ren Fair TikToks and content and stuff, and then just like out in the world. And
it's just it's a pet peeve that it's like Christian song that just gets, it's kind of annoying.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, that is like nowhere near the best song off that album, let alone by this band.
Yeah.
And it annoys me that that is the one that is so incredibly popular. It's a great song.
Yeah.
It's a great song. It's like 2 minutes as well. It's really short. But that's not what we're talking about today. And
No,
so,
no, 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 no.
but yeah, so they started off with a lot of religious themes. So I said that Dear Wormwood was their first album. It was their second after Through the Deep Dark Valley, which is also very heavily it has a lot of religious connotations. And then 2 years after they released Dear Wormwood, they released Notos, and for the next 4 years, not 4 years. Between 2017 and 2020, they released these four EPs that we're going to listen to today, and they're named after the Greek gods of wind and seasons because these albums are very much about change.
Yeah.
Specifically, they are about religious deconstruction, which, given the band's lore, as the kids say,
It's quite interesting.
it's interesting.
That is quite interesting.
Yeah, listening to everything this band has put out is a big old journey,
Mm.
but these four EPs on their own are a lot to digest.
Because you were telling me before that you were listening to these in a period of like change for yourself. So you felt you can relate to this
Yes,
content matter,
yes, I
which
started.
is why you want to show me.
Yes, this is. So I did listen to all four of these. I started listening to this band in 2020, which is when the last two EPs came out, and I listened to them and I loved the music, but I wasn't really resonating with the lyrics. And then I listened to them while I was doing my deconstruction of my religious faith, which was a very tumultuous time in my life. A lot of good, a lot of bad. And it was a very I couldn't listen to this band for like a full year
Mm.
after those listens.
Yeah.
Like I cried a lot. It was a lot to digest. Not expecting that to be what happens to you tonight.
Yeah, no, but like,
But they hold a very dear place in my heart. They're very special to me. I feel like there's something that I've kind of grown with through some big moments in my life, and I just think that they're really clever, well written albums.
yes, because I think this is probably going to be a bit more of a lyrical like reading of it because we're not music experts. Like
No.
sonically, we can't necessarily say this is exactly why this music sonically makes us feel a certain way. Like we don't have that background in music theory, but we do have a background in, knowing how to analyze
Yeah,
things.
I can analyze a text.
I can analyze a text. So
Anal lice?
don't even go there, man.
I'm leaving that in. I don't care.
But also it's kind of not the style of music that I gravitate towards. Like
Mhm.
I don't really like. This is not fully acoustic, is it?
It is.
Acoustic-ish.
It's basically fully acoustic.
Okay,
Yes,
yeah.
if there's any electronic instruments, they do a good job at disguising them.
Because I don't really ever listen to anything acoustic.
Yeah,
Like I like a bit of synth,
it's
a bit of
it's
bass.
it's very folk music. This is also
Yeah.
like so I like other folk music. I'm a good folk music enjoyer,
Mm.
but nothing hits the spot that these guys do, and I
Yeah.
don't know why that is. But it's like
Yeah.
whenever I get finished listening to one of their albums and Spotify starts to play recommended songs, instantly I'm like, the fuck is
It's
this?
not as, yeah.
Get away from me. Even like
Yeah.
similar stuff like Nickel Creek or whatever is doesn't hit
Yeah.
the same
Might
for me.
just be the content matter.
Yeah, they're really special albums. I love
Yeah.
these guys so much. I like this whole week leading up to this, I was like, oh, I'm having a hard week. It's I'm moving, work is
Yeah.
busy, but I get to listen to these four albums that I love.
Excellent. I'm definitely open to it. Like I will. I'm sure.
I think
You know,
even if the music isn't something that you would have gone for,
I'm not gonna dislike it because of
I don't
that.
think you're gonna
I'm not
dislike
gonna
it.
dislike it because
But
of that. Yeah.
and I don't think that you'll discount it because of that.
No.
But I think that the lyrics are something that you'll probably pick up on stuff that I haven't.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
a lot of lyrical analysis happening.
yeah. Hopefully. Apparently the full time for like all four of them back to back is an hour and 18 minutes. So we probably won't check back in the middle. We'll just do like start and end.
Yeah.
Even though like we could record in between like halfway or whatever, but we won't.
Now, also, it's something like because if we were gonna break it up, I reckon that we break it up every time we listen to something, which I don't want to break it up
No,
four
not that
times.
much. Yeah. Okay, so I think let's get going. I feel like we've covered a bunch.
Yeah.
I sounded so posh when I said that. We've covered a bunch. Oh, yes.
Don't spill.
I had a teacher in high school that said, "Is your middle name Have a Chat? Are you just having a chat? Is your middle name Have a Chat?" She was very posh like that.
I'd get violent. I'd get violent.
She would come right up behind you. She would like lean into your ear, be like, "Do your work." Like she would just really like she'd get really close.
I really don't like that.
Yeah,
Don't get close to
yeah,
me.
yeah.
Don't do that. There's this bit. No, I'm sorry, because we're basically Trixie and Katya. We both know this.
No, I'm cutting that out.
Oh, but I'm gonna do a bit of theirs, which is
Okay, yeah, yeah.
between.
Okay, so Becca really likes Trixie and Katya. Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
yeah. And
I'm gay and what?
and
But Katya does this thing where whenever she's touched, or sometimes when she touches Trixie, she goes, "Don't touch me."
oh, that's terrible.
Let's listen to fucking music already.
Welcome back to part 2. We have just listened to all 4 EPs and also eaten dinner.
Which was delicious, by the way.
Thank you.
Great cook right here.
It was a good time. I feel like it went by very quickly. It was very kind of easy to listen to, I guess you could say. Um, we usually share the person who doesn't know it first, so I'm gonna
Yes.
share my
Go for
thoughts.
your life.
I think, honestly, what I want to say the most is that I'm worried the listeners are going to be left not knowing what we're talking about because there is so much subject matter. Like, I would, if you actually are listening to this and have an hour and 18 minutes, you should listen to the songs. Like, usually it's just us talking about a movie, but I think to understand what we're talking about, you do need to actually listen to the songs. This is the type of thing people write books on, right? Like, you could analyze every single one of these songs, lyric by lyric, and theology, like, is such a debated topic. Like, there's so much
It's
Christian allegory in there. Like, it's something that you can literally like they have a whole album inspired by C.S. Lewis. Like
by
they've
one book by C.S.
like
Lewis.
they're clearly entrenched in like Christian, academic kind of stuff as well.
I think that especially for these 4 EPs, the symbolism is very, very dense.
Yeah, exactly. And so I feel like I can't necessarily do it justice in the next like sort of few minutes that we're talking because I just don't have enough time or knowledge to fully analyze all this stuff. Like I don't know what half of these like
Yes.
things are.
And I agree with that. So like when I was listening through these, at the time that I find the most memorable a few years ago, um, I was with someone that was making me break it down line by line,
Mm.
and that there's just so much you could just go
There's
for
yeah.
ages,
Yeah.
and it's just so dense,
Mm.
and I honestly don't think that going line by line is the way I would want to discuss
No,
these
I don't think so.
because they are a very emotional.
Yeah.
It's very emotional
That
music.
that's what that was actually my main takeaway was
Yeah.
that first of all, I'm glad we did it for the podcast because it made me actually like listen because you've been wanting to show me these for ages. So I'm glad that we are doing this. But I really my main takeaway from it was just the way the different all the EPs were different from each other. Like the first one was very much kind of I would say there was a lot of metaphor and there was a lot of but it was personal. So there was a lot of stuff that was obvious that there was a personal sort of feeling in there. But a lot of the stuff was unclear necessarily whether it was wanting to turn away from religion or whether it was just something to do with religion, if that makes sense. So a lot of this stuff that they were saying, I don't actually have any specific lyrics for this because I wasn't taking notes like you were, but you could potentially interpret it to be all these feelings lead you back to God rather than away from God.
Are you talking about just the first one or
Just the first one.
just the first?
Just the first one. So in the first one, there were all these like things that you could certainly interpret to mean that say things like wanting to tear down idols. You could mean, oh, that leads you towards God. Or that could mean that God was an idol that wasn't helping in your life.
Yeah.
Like I find that was really interesting that you could kind of interpret it either way, but there was still clearly a personal like emotion there. And then when you move to the second one, and there's a lot more kind of there's a lot more you don't know what's going on. Like there's a lot more metaphor, there's a
Yeah.
lot more like religious specific
There's
stories.
a lot of Greek mythology in
Yeah.
Eurus.
Yeah. I don't think that the fact that it's a lot means that you need to go through it. I think the fact that it's a lot is just shows the fact that sometimes when you're going through something such as religious like deconstruction, you can just feel like everything is too much. Like
Yeah.
you can just feel like there's so much happening. You can just feel like
You know,
there's
there's
too many mixed metaphors, there's too much confusion, but also the music was a lot more, there was a lot more anger in it. Like even though you
I
couldn't tell exactly what was going on necessarily because there's too much, the lyricism is a bit confusing. You can tell that there's that anger there, there's like underlying anger, and the music was more staccato, like there was a lot of stuff happening, and I was like, this is such an interesting like journey from the first one, which could be interpreted either way, compared to this.
I will say that I love that you just said the anger thing because these four EPs do have a stages of grief through line.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
Because and then in
And
the
anger is the second stage of
yeah,
grief.
and then in the third one, um,
Which is my favorite, by the way. Boreas is my favorite,
yeah,
has my favorite song on it.
the third one, I feel like I've forgotten what I was going to say because I just got really passionate about the second one. Um, there was a lot more kind of sadness, wasn't there, in the
Yes.
third one?
Yes,
Like
there
the
was.
it's got
Got
you
it.
get into your depression phase, right, with the grief stage of grief. Like there was a lot of kind of clarity on being disillusioned with everything that's happening. And I did actually write down a couple of lines. Um, here we go. So I think from the second EP. Oh, actually, yeah, this was from one of the songs that you said was your favorite, which was it was your favorite one from that one, I think. And if the heavens,
Yes, this
yeah,
is from Hieroglyphs, and I
yeah,
wrote this lyric down as well.
yeah. So a line that I wrote down was, "And if the heavens can be both sacred and dust, maybe so can the rest of us." Because I know that's something that you and I both feel strongly,
Yes.
is that nature is kind of
Just that like we are
yeah,
like the beauty that you see when you look at the mountains or when you
mm,
look at the stars or when you look at the ocean is something that you have in yourself as well. You are
mm,
equally as beautiful as all those things
yeah,
because you're equally as miraculous and have all these things about you that are beautiful, and you're just as much of a miracle. And like you like
mm,
that whole thing about how we're made of stardust and stuff,
yeah.
you
That
know, like
spirituality can be reflected within you and within your external
yes,
surroundings.
inwards and outwards.
Yeah. Which I thought that was really beautiful. Um, oh yeah, actually, the third, what really struck me from the third EP was this idea of just getting sick of the way that everything goes in circles and just getting sick of the fact that you're feeling this way. Because it's like, I grew up in the church and stuff, and when I was like in youth group and I was just like trying to figure out why I was so miserable there, I was just like getting sick of feeling this way. And it's definitely a stage of when you're going through something big of just being like, when's this gonna end? Like,
Yeah.
especially because it's even accentuated in religion because there are so many like theological discussions, and sometimes there's like theological discussions that aren't matching your personal discussions that are happening with inside your own mind, and it's like, when is this gonna match up, and when is this gonna? It just
Es-
gets very
I
complicated.
think especially when a lot of the stuff that you're told growing up in organized religion is that things are meant to line up.
Yeah,
Like, and that if things aren't lining up, that there is something wrong with you.
yeah,
Which there was just there's a line in, I've got a lot of notes going on here. There's a line in Soap, which is on the fourth one, Zephyrus,
mm,
about how if you had like if you were tougher, maybe that you would have been able to get through it.
mm,
And I think that's a big idea in Christianity, where it's like, well, if you fall away from it, it's because you were weak.
yeah,
And if you were tougher, then you would have held on to your faith,
mm,
which is not
yeah,
something I agree with.
yeah. And I mean, yeah, I
I
think
think it takes a lot of toughness and a lot of bravery to let something that is that such a big part of your life, the meaning of your life for many people, go.
that's true. And I think the third EP is one that I would definitely re-listen to because it is a lot more personal and it's a lot more obvious what is going on. Like where we stand.
That's the thing. It's
Like
it's a very for me it's very tangible because
yeah.
it is. And so Boreas is my favorite song, which just speaks, like, apart from the religious stuff, just speaks so true to my feelings of depression
Mm,
that I've lived with. But that whole EP is kind of is more rooted in bargaining and depression,
mm.
and not that everything is.
Bargaining's a big one there, yeah.
Yeah, not that everything is stages of grief. Like it's not like we can
It's not
map out
clear cut,
every
but
single thing,
yeah.
but it's about losing something. So there is that through line. And it's just it almost feels it feels relatable and it almost feels comfortable.
I know what you
It
mean.
feels like it's a feeling that I know.
Yeah. And then we move on to the fourth one, which is kind of, I guess you could say, coming out the other side.
Yeah,
Like you understand that it's okay to be where we are. Like it's okay to have these feelings and to be like happy coming out of letting go of such a
yeah.
big thing.
And there's also a lot of stuff in Zephyrus about how like well yeah there was all this stuff about my faith and about the church that wasn't right and that it took that I had to strip down. But hey, this God thing, maybe that's not worth letting go of just yet. You know,
Yeah.
like that's something and like the idea of, you know, that once you strip all of this down, the thing that you're left with that resonated with you in the first place, they're like, actually, there's probably some merit to this.
Yeah.
I'm going to hold on to this, and that's
Yeah.
okay. And yeah, the kind of acceptance at the end of that
Mm.
coming out on the other side.
I think it was a really beautiful conclusion to
Yeah.
it. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot more kind of, I'm not quite sure how to say it, but in the final EP there's a lot of just being, I guess, gracious with yourself, of like being
Yeah.
fine with,
There's a lot of
yeah,
saying about like we're like, hey, we're gonna be well. We're gonna be
yeah,
okay.
yeah, exactly. And then I wrote this, and then in the final, yeah, no, I wrote this line, which was from the second last song, I think, or somewhere in there, was, oh, maybe I'm naive for thinking that a mountain so stubborn can move, but if I'm a mountain moving, I think maybe you can be too, because it was kind of about like religion. I'm talking like religion as in practices, organized church stuff, not like God. I'm not, but that stuff is so stuck and stubborn in its
Yeah.
ways. Like they call it ossified at one point, like just turning to bone. Like, and people see that as good. Like this, they see the unchanging, the unmoving as being just good. Whereas honestly, in the Bible, Jesus tells you to question things. Like it's kind of counter, it doesn't make sense that people rely so much on just being like, this is this is how it is, like nothing's ever gonna change. Where I think it's a beautiful thing to say, hey, I've had this kind of religious deconstruction, maybe you can too, and it's not the end of the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's kind of interesting.
Which I wish that I had gotten as far as because I didn't listen to Zephyrus when I was doing my big listen through.
But I think that makes sense though,
Yeah,
because
well,
you were
because I
still in
was
a place where you were
I
like, you know.
I wasn't at I was nowhere near a point of acceptance.
Mm.
I was really torn up about it
Yeah.
and going through a really hard time with it. And it's probably like and now like I have less of an emotional attachment to Zephyrus because of that,
Mm.
but I resonate very strongly with all of the lyrics in there that are just about like, hey, it's gonna we're okay. Where there's all the stuff about like beauty and
Mm.
growth
Yeah,
and
growth,
like
nature.
spinning gold from yourself, and it's like this is the stuff that I am like I feel like I'm reaping now.
Mm.
Yeah, it's like no, I'm gonna figure this out for myself, and like the things in my life that I find spiritually fulfilling maybe aren't the things that I was told they should be,
Yeah,
and yeah,
that's
and
okay.
that's fine, and that's a
Yeah.
good thing that I found that what is fulfilling
Yeah.
and what yeah my beliefs actually are.
And the last song on the last EP is kind of a sad song. It's kind of about like, not quite are we back where we started, but just kind of the fact that this is a never-ending journey.
Yeah,
The fact that this is always going to be a topic in your life. Like if you have had something that was so deeply a part of you and then that deep something has changed, it's never going to not be part of you.
yeah,
Like I think that's something that you just have to accept, especially when it comes to any kind of loss, like a grief, when someone, when you lose a person or when you lose a religion, like it's always going to be part of you, and that's okay. But it's
I
kind of a sad song, but it's beautiful.
yeah, it's something that you're always, you know, thinking about and discovering new things about
Mm.
and growing, and it's a journey that you're on rather than it being the place that you're stuck in
Yeah,
and you just having to deal with whatever that place is.
it was super interesting listening experience. It's not like, again, it's not really my style of music. I did like it. I would listen again, but sometimes the woman's voice annoyed me. She doesn't have the most pleasant voice.
I think I'm used to it and it works for the genre,
It
which
does,
makes
it
sense.
works very well for the genre. But yes, it's not, it doesn't scratch my brain itch. But it is, it, you know, like, I would give this like a solid, probably 4.5 out of 5, man. Like, it was, it, made sense to me. And I don't know necessarily whether it would people who haven't had a religious experiences would care about this whatsoever.
Well,
But like,
there's a lot of political reading about it as well.
yeah.
So there's, and it's about change. It's about
Yeah, it's
grief.
true.
It's about
That's
moving on
true.
from things that
That's true.
weren't that like. I think that there's a very clear political reading as well.
Mm,
But for me, it's the religious side that
that's
I
fair.
really grasp onto, especially just because like their lore as a band was they started out making these very densely um like thematic Christian
Yeah.
albums. And then they go and make 4 EPs that are
Not that.
even denser
Yeah.
about their
Yeah.
deconstruction. And I'm like, that just really hits home for me.
I
But
vibe with
yeah,
something that you can sink your teeth into. 100%. Like you could, like I said, you could study this. Like I really like that about it.
wait until I get into my until I have time to make video essays on this is
I know,
going
right? I
down.
know, right? Like anyway, so
I'm also
yeah,
gonna give it a 4.5 out of
yeah.
5, just because I think just with all the allegory and the metaphors and the symbolism,
Sometimes it's hard to understand.
you need to PhD this.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
But I get so much out of it without that stuff, which is
Yeah.
something that I'm,
Well, that's the thing.
yeah,
You
and
know,
it
you can
keeps growing on
understand
me.
the vibes without necessarily knowing exactly what everything means.
Yeah, and like I was able to write down one,
I have
two,
pages of notes.
three full pages of notes, all with like a bunch of lyrics that I love and that resonate with me deeply.
Yeah,
And just because I don't get all of the Greek mythology references and all of the, but the thing is, that I do get a lot of the references.
I don't.
I mean, no, but
Yeah,
I think that you do. I think you do. I think
I get enough.
this was your first time listening to it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just saying that there's new stuff that I find every time with it because there's just so
Mhm.
much, which is crazy for like 4 EPs that only add up to a little over an hour. That there is so much packed in there is crazy. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, there's so much of it for me. Um, and I'm so excited to hear some of these songs live,
Yeah.
even though it's a Dear Wormwood anniversary. I'm so excited for
Mm.
this. Oh, is that? Look, again, we could talk about this for
We really
hours,
could.
but it's we've been recording for longer than usual,
True.
so I think we might leave it here for
I think
tonight.
we should leave it here. We've given it a rating.
Yeah,
And we have cookies to bake.
and there's no Rotten Tomatoes game for this one.
Well, no.
It's just our own
But I think
excellent
the critics
opinions.
like it.
Critics love it. I
Yeah.
love it. We all
Yeah.
love it. It's great.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Thank you for listening. And next time we'll be back for the actual episode 7.
actual episode 7. I don't know, man.
Episode
7.
7.